I don't really just love hospitals. There's a lot of reasons for that, but mainly it's part of my job is to go see people in the hospital, and which is ironic because growing up, my mom worked in a hospital, and so I basically just lived up there, and I was there all the time, and I saw doctors and nurses. I would see techs running down the hallway with equipment, and I I liked being up there. It was a new place. It was exciting. Things were moving, and I saw it. But I'm at a place now where I'm not just the innocent kid running through the hallways, but I'm the person who is stepping into really difficult situations and trying to help people through the things that they're going through. My job as pastor is I'm not ever like doing the healing or giving the medication or doing the procedures, but there's still a role that I play when I step in, and where the church is supposed to step in to provide comfort and prayer and solidarity. And sometimes it's really exciting. There's a good test result. The surgery went well. There's other times where it is hard, and there is people who are struggling and suffering and dying, and we gotta walk through that. And so it's not always the easiest thing for me. I'm not just like, yay, I want to go to a hospital today. And what I will say though is, after being a pastor for 2 years, and I did it when I was in student ministry, but when you're the head pastor or the pastor, there's a lot more opportunity and there's a lot more expectation to jump into that. So I've done it a lot more. And with that, it has become one of the most powerful parts of ministry, but it's where so many things hit the ground. It's where your boots hit the ground and you start moving on some things, and you see God kind of bring things to fruition in a lot of ways. So what does this mean for you? What it means is, for some of us, really all of us, we're going to walk through times where we are called to help people. We're going to be called to be in someone's life. Maybe it's as simple as you have a family member that is struggling and you're trying to help provide comfort for them in their time of suffering. Or maybe you're part of a small group, Sunday school class, and someone is in the hospital, or someone is at home, or someone calls you on the phone and says, I've got to talk to you right now. My world just blew up. And we've got to figure out, how do we walk through that? How do we do that? And for me, the reason why when I think about this theme, I think about hospitals, is because so often you will go into a hospital room and have no idea what to do, say, or act. And so for me, that's just a very real thing. For you, it may be on someone's living room couch. It may be a phone call where they're dropping a bomb on you, and you've got to figure out how to respond in the moment through the surprise. You've got to figure out how to work through that very quickly, and then be pastoral or be there for them in that moment. And it can be a lot. It can be so much when you're entering into someone's pain and struggle. And so there's a lot that we could look at. There's a lot that we could do, very practical things of what that looks like. And we'll touch on a few of those things. The place where I want us to really center, though, is a verse in Romans 12, verse 15. It's a very short one. It's in the Marks of a True Christian passage. And it simply says, rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. And then 16 says, live in harmony with one another. And that's in the midst of like a lot of things that Paul is saying. And I'm so joyful to rejoice with you when you are rejoicing. I love a party. I am excited when good things happen, when the phone call comes and the promotion happens and all these things come to fruition. Like, I am ready to party. And when you are weeping in front of me, I don't know what to do about it. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to act. I'm not really a big like hugger kind of person. My entire church knew that immediately. And where I've sat with this is, one, this is a mark of a Christian. This is something that we are expected to do. And two, this is what we are called to be. Because there are going to be times where we rejoice, and there's times we want to bring people to us to celebrate what God is doing in our lives. And we also know that because of stuff that we talked about in the last episode and things that we've seen in our life, there are times where we and others are going to struggle. And we are called to not back away. We are called to not avoid or distance. We are called to step in and weep with those who weep. Now, that does not mean you walk into, in my case, a situation like a hospital room and you're just a puddle on the floor. There are times where you showing emotion is incredible, and it brings people together. It shows that you're not a robot and that this is a really big deal. However, we're still called to step into this and be with them. So very practically, if we're thinking about a hospital room, and this could be whatever your context is, the way that I have stepped into this and the way that I have learned to do it from mentors and as I've done it myself, your job is to be there. Your job is to show up and be in the room. It doesn't mean you have to be there every waking moment that they're there. It can be relatively short. It can be relatively sporadic. If someone is walking through a season that is long and drawn out, and it's going to be a process that you walk through, there are times where you don't need to be there. There are times where you need to give the person space. But the way that I think about it is, first off, you just got to be there and be in the room. In my situation, my example is a hospital room. You walk in, you find a seat on the couch or the little chair, and you ask them how they're doing. And sometimes people want to tell you everything that the doctor said and all of the diagnosis and what the plan is going forward. And that's great. You can kind of walk through that and help them process. And there's other times where you just need to see how they're doing. And if they're not doing well, sometimes they don't want to hear about what the doctor has said or hear about what the plan going forward is. Sometimes they just want you in the room to be there, to realize that they are not walking through this alone, to realize that there are people living in harmony with them, and even in the rough times, you are there for them. And obviously from then on, you can meet needs, you can pray. Both of those are very important. But for us, the first thing we need to think about is be in the room. And then the second thing is the issue of follow-up. Because so often when we do something uncomfortable, there's the barrier of entry to get into it. We don't want to do that. It is tough for us to walk through the door, so to speak. And sometimes it's even harder to return once you have left this hard season, because you know it's going to be at least like it was the first time. And a lot of times people will look at it like, oh, I checked the box, moving on. Check the box, moving on. And what I have realized is small, consistent, repeated touches are much better than one giant solitary thing. And so if you show up, I'm making all this up as we go, but if you show up with candy and flowers and a balloon and all these rigmaroles and stuff, and then as they're walking through things in the coming weeks, you never show up again, that is way less helpful than if you were to pop in every few days or once a week over the course of the long run, where you're consistently praying, you're consistently checking in, you're seeing what they need, you're talking to family and community, and you're making sure that they are being rallied with, and that those small consistent touches are way more valuable, I think, than the one big show at the beginning. And so what you're doing is when you're rejoicing with people and you're weeping with people, what you're doing is you're walking with them through life. And what you may find is that as you're walking through this with people, as you're stepping into these hard situations, it begins to bring some stuff in you. Maybe there's something that God is working in your life as you walk through these things with other people. And so you need to be cognizant of that. You need to be aware of those things as you're walking through. But small repeated actions over the course of the long run are very helpful. Follow up, I think, is just as important as stepping into it when it happens. You need to try to be there as close as you can when the news breaks, but the follow-up that comes after is often missed and often just as important. So show up and be there for them. And 2, follow-ups are very important. And you may be thinking, like, that sounds great, but like, what do I say to someone that's had a life-altering thing happen to them? What do I say to someone who's like a marriage has imploded, or someone that is just something has happened, they got fired, something has happened where just their whole life has shifted on a dime and they're reeling? What am I supposed to say? How do I know what Bible verse to go? How do I know where to take them and what answers to give and all of these things? And the answer is, many times we do not have the answer, and that person does not want the answer in that moment. There was a reason why in the last episode I talked about how if you were walking through, like if you're in the midst of the valley, you don't really want to know like a big theological answer to things. You don't really want to know which Bible verses can walk you through the theology of suffering. You just want to have hope, and you want to have someone that's in the fight with you. And so I was literally talking to those people in the first episode. And now, as we look at the other side of it, that is what you're trying to be for these people. And so when you go in, it is perfectly okay for you to say, hey, I don't know what to say to this. This is crazy. Like, this is heartbreaking, and I'm so sorry. And just know that I'm here with you. And if that sounded real choppy and kind of weak, to be honest, and not very like preachy encouragement, it isn't, and it's not meant to be. What you're doing is you're showing that you care about this person. You're showing that there are things of this world that don't make sense. And you're showing that you have empathy and you are there with them in that moment. So often we just want to go in and preach the devotional to them and then get out and just say, hey, you're going to be great. Buckle up, buttercup. And then you move on to the next. There's something that is difficult and heavy and hard about sitting with someone in their struggle, weeping with the person who is weeping. And so it's important to say that you don't have all the answers. It's important to say you don't know what is going on in the moment, but you're here with them. And you're willing to do whatever you can to walk with them through it. And sometimes your presence is all that's necessary. So show up, follow up, and you don't have to have all the right answers. So hopefully that's helpful. That's a thing, that's one of those things that you don't really learn until you're in ministry, or you don't really learn until you're in community with some people and things happen and you've got to step into those things. And it's not comfortable. It's not always easy. But what you will find is every time you leave the hospital room, every time you hang up the phone, every time you leave their living room and get back in your car, what you'll realize is you're glad you went, and God works through seemingly insignificant things, like you showing up and being there for them. Even though you didn't provide any words of encouragement, you didn't give them any resources or any kind of tips or tricks or a sermon that just blows them away. All you gave them was yourself and your time and your soul. Not your soul, but your empathy. You gave them your empathy. And that's important. So be with your people. Be willing to step into hard things. When people are struggling, we are called to run to these hurting people. We're supposed to be a hospital for sinners, but also a hospital for broken people. And God has called us to be light in a dark place. So step into it. I know it is not easy. I know it is hard in many senses, and we don't know what to do. But the beautiful thing is that you do not do this alone. In the same way that you are stepping into their life, the Lord is with you as you go. So remember that, be encouraged by it, and let's do life together.